Everyone, today we are with Paul Johnson, and you do animation mainly. So we're gonna discuss about your project and how you work. So can you present yourself and maybe tell a bit about what you do?
Merci, Benjamin. I am Paul. I've been working in animation for 24 years. I recently just turned 48, so it's officially half of my life now. I've been working in animation. Currently finishing up Hotel Transylvania 3 in studio, 3D project. But my own short films I do in 2D because I have a 2D background before I got into 3D. So I like the balance of doing 2D and 3D. And recently finished my fifth short film, which I did in TV Paint, and I'll be doing my next short film in TV Paint as well.
Your next short film is already on production.
In my brain so far. I can't officially start it until I'm finished at Sony in 2 weeks.
So you are a 3D animator too, and you do both 2D and 3D. So how did you learn animation, basically?
Well, I started out with hand-drawn animation. I took a year-long course at Vancouver Film School in 1994, and then I did hand-drawn for the next 5 years, and then I did digital 2D from 2001 to 2010. While I was doing that digital 2D, I was slowly teaching myself the 3D because I saw that there was a lot of people that I was working with that were not able to adapt to the computer side after the hand-drawn side. And it made me sad and a little bit scared maybe that the industry was changing and a lot of people weren't changing with it. So I was teaching myself 3D while I was doing the digital 2D, and then since 2010, I've been mostly working in 3D in studio. Though the last project I did was a 2D project in studio, so I like being able to switch back and forth now.
You are working in a studio and at home for your personal project because just now you are before your working day, so in like 2 hours you go to the studio and you use your free time to make your personal projects.
Yeah, 15 hours a week is my goal. You know what? Let me just try this here. I'm just gonna bring up a
Mhm.
file and try and share the screens. Yeah, so I about the first 60 hours, I was doing the music and the animatic and teaching myself TV Paint, and then I started keeping very tight track of the hours here. And the goal was 15 hours a week. So you can see I broke it down into chunks of 1 week each. And each week I would get 15 hours into my short film, and it took about 8 months in total to get to the 425 hours that it took me.
So everything was organized at the beginning.
Yeah, I set a range of time between 350 and 450 hours because since it was my first time using TV Paint, I wasn't sure about the speed I would be able to achieve with it and how long it would take me to learn it. Yeah, it's something I've gotten used to now is learning new programs all the time from working in studio. But still, it's is it going to take this long or this long? So yeah, it was a range. But my next one, I think I'll be more specific. I'll be able to have an idea before I start of how long it will take.
Yeah, because it's pretty impressive because usually the personal project, or mine actually, are like a big thing. I don't know how to deal with it, how to manage the time I have.
Hmm.
So
Well,
it's
and
impressive to
and that's
see.
one thing working in studio has taught me
Yeah.
is how to budget my time, and not just like, oh, this is how I use my time day to day, but how to look at something and say, that's going to take 60 hours. That's going to take 200 hours, and to be pretty accurate just because I've gone through it so many times. It's a skill that I think most people that have worked in studio a long time could develop, but I think most people in studio still don't develop it. They still look at it as very just day by day, week by week. They don't think of the big picture.
Because I think it's more the job of a director, but on your personal project, you are the director, so you have to have this vision.
It's true. One thing that I saw in working in studios, there's a lot of people that I work with that have their own projects that they've started and they've been working on for years, and then they decide they don't like it and they change it. But most of them don't finish it. And it's like all these people, a lot of these people are better than me, and they're not finishing their projects. Like, okay, whatever I have to figure out how to finish. And so that's the one of the biggest things I've realized is set that firm time limit. And once I hit those hours, okay, I'm done. That's it.
So about specifically your project, your last short film, how did the idea come?
It was actually when I went to the Ottawa Animation Festival in 2013. That's when I started developing my short film ideas. So you can see here, the time code is December 2013. And this is when I started writing down my film ideas. So every time I got an idea, whether it was, if I'm at work or I'm out somewhere and I have to write it on a pad of paper or email it home or whatever, then I would just start getting my ideas down. And so over the last 4.5 years now, I'm up to 349 film ideas. Over the last few weeks, because I've finished my fifth one, I'm getting ready for my sixth one. I went through all my ideas, a lot of them this past weekend, and I've actually took out 18 of them that I said, okay, maybe these are ones I could develop, because some of the ones I came up with a few years ago, they just don't interest me anymore, or they weren't thought through well. And then some of my more recent ones, oh yeah, I have to get excited about that. Or sometimes it's two or three ideas can combine. So yeah, it's I say 18, and officially it's still there, but the last couple of nights I've been waking up and just been thinking about one of them in the morning, and it's starting to work itself out. So that's kind of how I find it. It's not, oh, I have to go do this. It's more like, okay, what's gonna work? Oh, I'll develop this one a little while. I'll develop this one. Oh, look, I've developed that one for hours and hours and hours. I guess that's my next short film.
So have you already begun a short film production and realized it wasn't a good idea for you and switch to another?
Not so much realized it wasn't a good idea, but like I showed all these ideas that I have there. Some of those ideas are just one sentence. Some of those ideas have 4, 6, 8 hours put into them already. And I've got paragraphs and paragraphs and sketches done and sound clips. So it's more like I develop a lot of ideas along. It seems to be about 20 hours is the point at which, okay, this is my next film. I can put, 6 hours, 8 hours into something, and then, yeah, I might come back to that later on. But when I get to about that 20-hour mark, that's when I'm committed. That's when it's going forward.
How did you begin the short film 65 million years ago? It was the
hmm
idea, a design, a scene, a shot?
You know what it was? It was just starting to draw in my sketchbook. I take the commuter train to work every day. It's about a half-hour ride. So I draw in my sketchbook, and I just started drawing dinosaurs. And after a few weeks of that, I started thinking, oh, that could be my next short film. So I started going through my film ideas, and there was an idea that wasn't really about dinosaurs. It was about the Earth ending and nuclear weapons and all these different things. And it was like, oh, I can put dinosaurs into that. So I started just putting those ideas together. The way I looked at it is it was an alternate reality where the dinosaurs, didn't die out, and they developed intelligence, and they kind of became more like people. So they could have a city, and they could have, bars and playgrounds and scientists and all these different things, but they were doing it in a way that wasn't sustainable. So thinking about, maybe what people are doing now.
I wondered about the designs because on your videos on Vimeo, you shared the animation part, but not the design part. So how did you get that, the look, the visuals?
It was mostly sketches. I would usually draw about 4 or 5 dinosaurs every morning, and filling up, a 24-page sketchbook. Then I end up with whatever there was at 120 dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And then I started, doing some backgrounds too. And backgrounds are more difficult for me. That's not as natural. So I would have to actually think, okay, I'm going to go draw backgrounds for the next week. And I would start sketching out very rough backgrounds. And some of my very, very small storyboard ideas from the backgrounds turned pretty much into the full backgrounds, just much, much simpler.
Do you work for the pre-production kind of organically, or this is very step by step?
Somewhat organically, but it is, yeah, I do have a pretty tight workflow as well. So the very first thing that I do is a music.
Okay.
and I compose the music, and I do that in a program called Milky Tracker. So like this here, each one of these numbers and letters here is corresponding to a keyboard note. It's just a matter of going through and putting the notes down and then playing it and trying it again and again, just doing trial and error repetition. I was fortunate in a way because when I was in high school, we had a choice between art, theater, and music. I wasn't very good at art, so I actually chose music. And I didn't get into drawing until I was 23. Without that musical background, I wouldn't be able to, I would have been further ahead with animation if I'd taken art, but I wouldn't be able to do the music now. So I feel like I'm lucky that, okay, I had to catch up with my drawing, but I've got the music for my whole life now.
Yeah. You thought about your short film as a music clip?
Yeah, I really like having the music to time the animation to. I don't want to just, and that's another part of the workflow, is if you don't have any set timing, then the scenes can go on forever. The pacing might be kind of all over the place. But I find when I've got music, everything's okay. This scene is going to be this long. I know exactly how long I need to fit it in. And after working in studio long enough, I know how to, oh, I have to cut 3 frames off that. I need to make that 8 frames longer. I have enough experience with that that I can play around with the timing.
I guess you have fun with that kind of film because you can do everything on your on Hotel Transylvania. You're not making the music and the storyboard and everything, so it must be
Yeah,
great.
I don't have to make anybody else happy. That's exactly it. Because I really like working in studio because it's collaborative and I get the social connection and I get learning and I get new software skills, but it's always somebody else's idea. And I always keep that in mind that, okay, when I go home, that's my idea and I get to do it however I want. And then when I go to studio, okay, it's somebody else's idea. Sure, I'll do what they want. I'll do it this way. I'll do it that way. And keeping the two separate seems to work for me.
Yeah, and I think everybody wants to do his own idea because in studios, I guess your colleagues are making their own illustration or comics when they are not at the studio.
Yeah, people, I think more people want to than actually do it. And people say, oh, how do you find time to do it? When I get home, I'm so tired. I don't have any ideas. And I find it's the opposite. The going into studio gives me more ideas. Going into studio gives me more inspiration, and it gives me the focus when I have the time. So when I get home in the evening, if I've got 2 hours to work on my short film, I am very efficient. I've already worked it throughout the day. This is what I'm going to do when I get home. Oh, this and this and this and this and this. So when I get home and work on it for 2 hours, it's like 3 or 4 hours of work because I've already organized it in my mind.
Do you have some tricks to get okay? I work for a full hour on this project and nothing can distract me.
Mm. I actually have a few notes on my monitor on my Cintiq that help me out sometimes. One of them is make the movies that you want to see.
Yeah.
So basically looking at the world and saying, oh, that movie, I didn't like that. They should have done this. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do that and try and fill in the gaps with what doesn't exist in the world. Another part of it is letting myself not get caught up with the studio work. So when I go into studio, I do the work and I really enjoy it and I learn from it. But I always keep in mind that it's never exactly what I would do on my own. So if I'm doing something in studio, I'm thinking, how would I do this differently? If I didn't have any director, if I didn't have any rules, if there were no script, and that's how I develop my own ideas. One thing that's motivated me is longevity, lasting in the industry. Because I've been doing this 24 years and I still love it. But a lot of people, after they've been doing it 10, 15, 20 years, they're just, oh, I'm sick of it. Oh, I never get to do the work that I want to do. Oh, they don't give me enough time to do quality work. And people get burnt out and tired of it. And my focus was always, what do I need to do to last in the industry? What do I need to do so I can do this for 30, 40, 50 years? And if I'm going to do that, then part of that has to be, oh, I have to do my own ideas. Oh, how do I do that? Oh, okay. I'll work in studio and I'll enjoy that and learn. And then I go home and do my own ideas. So part of it is almost survival.
About your studio work, how did you get your first job in a studio?
I started it actually before I finished animation school. There wasn't the animation industry in Vancouver wasn't that big in 1994, 95. And there was one guy that was starting up he was trying to get his own show picked up actually. So he'd done a 22-minute pilot. He'd laid out the entire thing, and so he was hiring students to animate it so that he could pitch it to Disney and hopefully get a series picked up, which he eventually did. It was called Cleo the Misfit Unicorn
Okay.
by Gordon Stanfield. And yeah, that was my first very low paying, quickly done, but it was a job and it was paid and it didn't, it was, I just remember my first check. It was, my first check was $300 for 2 weeks work. And I just remember being so thrilled with, it turned out to be less than minimum wage by the time I was doing it if I calculated the hours. But I was so happy. Yeah, I got paid to do this animation, and that just set me up going forward. I can do this. I can do this for a career.
And then was it easy to go from studio to studio, production to production?
Not at first. I think I actually found it easier than a lot of people just because my natural personality, I like change. I don't like staying in any one place for too long. I like meeting new people. I like working on new projects and new places. But yeah, even then, it still took a few times because you see the job coming to an end and your contract is 6 months or 9 months. And oh, I'm going to be out of a job soon. Like right now at Sony, I have 2 weeks left and I don't have my next job lined up. I've had a few interviews. I have a few potential places to go, but I'm not I'm not too concerned because it's not about looking at, oh, what if something doesn't happen? It's looking at the past for me now. And I think, oh, I've already gone through this 20, 25 times where the contract ends and I find another job. So I'll find another one this time. I always have in the past. But the first few times it was difficult because I didn't have that sense of history that I could look back on and say, oh yeah, I've always found work. It's like, am I going to? Am I going
Yeah.
to? And there wasn't that much work in town at the time, so it was challenging.
So, for example, did you have to move to another country maybe to make a job or?
Different companies, absolutely. I've been fortunate that I grew up here in Vancouver, and most people don't get to live in the city they grew up in to do animation. Most of the time it's either moving to a bigger city or a different city that has more animation, or just moving from city to city if or country to country. I took a job in Montreal in 2015 for 8 months. I took a contract there because I'd lived in Vancouver my whole life, and I was looking at all these people traveling all over the world with animation. I thought, oh, I have to go somewhere else for animation. I want to try something else. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time in Montreal, and eventually, though, I realized, oh, Vancouver's my home. This is where my family is. I'll come back here.
Could we go now for like a demo of TV Paint with animation and the tools you like and the way you work?
So this is a few scenes that I did from season 5 of Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
So this is Tiger Claw, and we've got some Kavaxis up here. He was voiced by Mark Hamill. That was fun. This is Don Vizioso, or a big bad guy. And yeah, this kind of stuff, I love this. Just the fast action and the Fanboy and Chum Chum was my first 3D show, and or sorry, Planet Sheen was. And then I worked on Fanboy and Chum Chum, and then I worked on 5 seasons of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles since the beginning. And there was a lot of time to do that compared to most studio projects. In the end, we ended up with 16 weeks per episode for 9 people. So the quota was about 12 seconds a week, which is really low for TV. For the last couple seasons, I had my team doing it, and so I was able to hand out scenes and do approvals. It was just so great to get everybody together on the same page and say, okay, for the next 4 months, the 9 of us are doing this 22 minutes. Go, and go tell the story. It was a great experience.
Your last short film was the first one where you use TV Paint for the entire production?
That's right, yeah. So this is my 65 million years ago folder. As we can see here, if I go to properties, We have 115,000 files in 485 folders. It's 81 gigabytes of information. There's definitely a structure to it. So my animatic folder is where I put all my Premiere files. So if I go to the original one or the early one here, it's going to have, my storyboards, some very basic ideas, but it's going to have the timing there with the music. If I go to a later one, sometimes it's just one scene that I would test. I wouldn't test the whole movie because, oh, how is this one scene going? And when I get to the end, it's okay, now I've got the introduction in. It's almost done now by this point. Here, this is July of 2017. Going down August, September, October, November, up to January. I've really only got 6 main scenes. So I've got each folder broken down with the different backgrounds. So this was my very first restaurant sketch that I did in my sketchbook. So I had this idea there was going to be dinosaurs sitting over here at a table. There were 2 dinosaurs in the foreground. Here was a waiter walking through. There were 2 dinosaurs here that were going to be fighting. I didn't end up doing that. Another dinosaur over here that was drunk. I didn't end up doing that. But I've got the kitchen door here, which I ended up doing. And a lot of these ideas in this very, very rough sketch, the idea that I had early on was that I would do a lot of pans. It would just be introducing the dinosaurs' world through panning through their different backgrounds. This was the final background that I had. I had some characters from my 4th film here on the ground. I had some paintings from my 3rd film here on the wall. And I had a screenshot from my 2nd film and from my 1st film. So this background has all my films in it.
So you did the camera movement in TV Paint too? You did all the animation and then had the camera? How did you manage that?
Yeah, actually, I did the camera moves in Premiere. I started to do the camera moves in TV Paint, and then for me, just starting out with it, I realized it was easier just to do all the assets in TV Paint and get all the animation done, get all the cycles done, and then worry about placing them later.
Yeah.
And it kind of set up, I worked better with dividing my mind between animation and composition and editing. And I just need to draw something that's working really well. Okay, cool. Now I can get that into the scene. I can animate quickly in TV Paint, but I'm not as confident with the editing yet.
If it's easier, there is no better way. Just just the way it works.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's it. I mean, I think sometimes people get stuck on using the tool in just one way, but there's so many ways to do it, and people can use it in whatever way works best for them.
Yeah, you have to find your own workflow and the best way you can work.
So this was my city background idea where I have cars going by. I have dinosaurs in the foreground, the background, and then I started thinking about a cityscape down here. And this is similar to what I ended up with at the city. This is, again, scanned drawings from my sketchbook and arranging them in different places. Keep the dinosaurs somewhat consistent. I mean, the style of them was, it was all over the place, really. But as long as they all look like they belonged in the same world, that was the most important thing to me.
And did you have some references or some inspiration for the visuals?
No, I thought about that. I just wanted to do it from my memory of dinosaurs. Because going back to when I was a child, I studied dinosaurs, and I started thinking, oh, I should look at dinosaurs and make sure that they're accurate. And I thought, no, no, no. I just want the ideas that I had of dinosaurs from when I was a kid. So there's not really real dinosaurs in here. You can't say, oh, that's that dinosaur, that's that dinosaur. It's more like dinosaur-like animals. The whole thing is, I don't have to follow any rules because it's my own project. If I'm in a studio, maybe it does have to be specific dinosaurs. And maybe it even has to be for toys that they're going to be selling for some
Yeah.
show. But yeah, on my own, nobody to make happy except myself.
It could be interesting to see the animation as well.
Ah, yeah, sure. So here's my TV Paint folder. So this is a very large folder. This one has, it's only 11,000 files. It's not as big. It's still pretty big. So this is where I have all my playground animation. So I've got my background characters. I have the bubble animation. I have the hula hoop character, the juggling character where he's juggling the soccer ball, the running character, the seesaw, and the volcano.
So each element is made in a different file and then
Hmm.
composite
And
after.
again, it was something where I could have done it all in the same file, but just for simplicity for myself, it was much easier just to say, okay, I'm on hula hoop number 4, and here's what my version looks like. And it's just going to be a very simple 4 drawing cycle. So I would draw my rough in TV Paint, do my cleanup lines on top of that. It's only a 4 drawing cycle. It's very simple. So I want to try and make the drawings interesting. So I've got perspective on the hands there, and then the stomach comes forward in perspective, and the hands go back. It's pretty simple, but like I say, when it's panning across, we don't really notice that it's only 4 drawings. And then I put the tones on, so I draw with 30% opaque black, and that gives the idea of a light source, and then adding the fills. So this was one of the earlier ones that I did, and I was really happy with how this turned out, just because I wasn't too familiar with TV Paint yet, but I was familiar with it enough that I could I could get something out of my head that I wanted to have there. So we'll go back to the roughs here. This started out with a drawing from my sketchbook. Did this on the train on my way to work and brought it home and scanned it in, and use that as the basis for the rest of the animation. So the ball's going up, he's going to hit it with his other knee, get some squash and stretch going on the ball. Up, 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 here comes the ball coming down, boom. Trying not to obscure the face, keep the ball out of the face there for too long. And then doing the fills. Oh, I guess I've got I've got the fills and the lines on the same layer here. So this was another thing. It was like, oh, okay, should I have the fills and the lines on the same layer? I'm not sure. And I was developing different workflows for that. And so whenever the ball is on the same layer as the character, I had to draw that on the same layer, because the hand is going in front of the ball. But when the ball's up in the air, then I can have that on a separate layer.
And so it was pretty quick to do that shot. You just scan your drawing and then you animate just after this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It's just so I get home, and maybe the first day when I get home, I've got 2 hours, so I work out these roughs here. And then that's what I do the one day. And then the next day I say, okay, I'm going to start doing the fills and dividing it up into different layers. So I can just have the ball on one layer, except when it combines with the dinosaur. Get the dinosaur with the lines in there. And so I do that maybe the second day, and then maybe the third day I say, okay, now I'm going to put the tones on it. And I like looking at the tones by themselves, because if you can recognize what's happening just from the tones, yeah, okay, now I know it's working. You can tell that's a dinosaur, kicking a soccer ball up in the air.
Do you have, for example, a particular complex shot you have you did something you had difficulties with?
Um, Not really,
No.
actually. This project went pretty smoothly. There wasn't anything that I really struggled with, or anything that I spent a lot of time on and then had to throw out. I wasn't overly ambitious with this because I was using a new software, but my own short films in general, I try not to take on too much, because I know I've got my set hour time limit, and I know that I want to get it done so that I can move on to my next one. So I haven't taken on anything too large. I make sure that what I'm doing is something that I like, I guess, so that I don't start to get tired of something, or I start to get frustrated with something. So if even if it's something difficult, I really like this. So it generally goes pretty smoothly, because I'm not fighting against it. And I found that for all my short films, actually, because I'm enjoying it, because I'm doing it for myself, I don't seem to really run into any walls, or get to any point where it's too hard, it's a struggle, it's not working. Again, as opposed to studio, because that happens a lot in studio, because I have to do it the way somebody else wants to.
Yeah, that's the point of the personal work.
I was talking to a man last week, Robin Shea at DHX, and he had a really good quote that I really like, and he said, "Studio work should be training for our own work."
Interesting.
And yeah, 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 exactly. That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're not doing studio work so that we can say, I did studio work. We're doing it so we can say, oh, now look what I can do on my own.
Is it something you want to show us about this film? Maybe a particularly great file you did, or an animation you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, it's a good idea. Well, yeah, I'll just quickly go through it here. So the beginning part here, this is what I've done with all my films now. Whatever my previous film was, that's how I start the next film. So this is how my previous film ended, my fourth film. So I'm starting with my fourth film and going into my fifth film. See, the idea is that when I'm done all of my 20 films that I'm doing in 20 years, I can put them all together and it'll be a 75-minute long feature film. So this one here, this was a little bit technically challenging, but I was happy with how it worked out. So I have the Earth, I go out, we've got the dinosaurs talking, and they're inside of a TV screen. This here was actually done frame by frame, fitting this TV screen into the wall there, just because, and you can see there's a little bit of a pop at the end there.
Yeah.
And it was just technically challenging. And actually, you can see that the shadows are actually popping on the ground too. At that point, because I saw that and it was like, oh, should I fix that? And then it was like, nah, I don't care. I don't need to make anybody else happy. It's fine. So, and this was the first full scene that I did with all the dinosaurs here. And yeah, it was good to see it all working together. The panning backgrounds, just the idea here of the one character on the left. So he's drinking this shot. These purple characters, they don't move at all. It's just getting a pose down because they pan off quickly. I don't need to animate them. The yellow one here, he's just doing this quick drink, puts it down, wants another one. These two here, it's just their eyes, or just the mouth moving actually. And then I was looking at this here, and it was always a sense of, oh, so what else do I need? Should I have the guy here playing pool? Should I have this guy here moving? No, you know what? I just need these two guys punching each other. That's enough.
You just have to get some points in the pictures that are eye catching, but not everything, because it would be confusing, I guess, if everything was moving.
Well, confusing, but also a lot of work.
Yeah, also, yeah.
So it's generally it comes down to what's the least amount of work I can do for the most amount of impact. Like this guy here, it's just a I think it's a 5 or 6 drawing cycle, and all he's doing is moving his arm. This was a really easy one, but you know it looks pretty good. I mean, for the amount of impact that it gives, it was very little work. Going down here into the newspapers. So this was my exposition because there's no dialogue, so I felt like I needed to tell a bit of a story. So I had all these newspapers here, and you know people can go through them and read each one if they want to see the story. Yeah, I didn't even clean these ones up in TV Paint or anything. They're just that's actually my scanned drawings.
Yeah, it looks good on the papers.
Yeah, I think it works. And this was interesting because I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do this explosion. There was a smoke brush in TV Paint, and I started playing with that, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can work with that. And sometimes you can see here too, it's like, oh, this is a lot of smoke. I don't want to have to redraw that. I'll just make it bigger. And then I'll draw it, and then I'll draw it. And yeah, this brush worked pretty well for giving me the effect that I wanted. And yeah, these little bits of animation here, they're nothing too complicated, but I was just really happy with how this turned out. With the character running towards us, and I gave him a bit more blur as he came closer and closer to us. But just again, this when I was in one of my videos of the behind the scenes for this, I broke down this scene here with the character running towards us and cleaning it up and putting the tones on. And I really this was so easy, getting all these thick and thin lines and getting the detail there. I really enjoyed this scene with the character coming closer and closer. And then this one here, and I actually did this in 2 different layers. The yellow character is completely behind the blue character. And at first I started combining them onto one layer, and it was just I wasn't quite confident in the timing I wanted. So I just, you know what, I'm just going to separate them. And it just made it easier that way. And actually you can see I've got a terrible arc going on here at the end. I didn't even notice that before. He's going this direction here. It should be going da da da. He should keep going this way, but then he kind of turns to the left.
Yeah.
It's 2 frames. Well, actually, now that I've seen it again, because I never paid attention to it before. Oh yeah, I totally see it
Yeah,
now.
me too.
And yeah, then these characters with the walk cycles coming in there. I was happy with how those worked out too. Because again, it's very little work. It's only, just for 12 drawings, the amount of mileage and screen time that I get, for these characters coming in. Again, that's like, oh, okay, cool. That was just, maybe 6 hours work to get each cycle done. Carries a lot of screen time. But this is a very simple one. But again, I just I like doing this and you know putting some flash frames on there. You can see that I've only got with this hand here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drawings. That's it for the hand. And again, it's just using the economy. And you see, there's no continuity here. This is this huge long panel, and then we're on the edge of the panel. But again, I don't care. I just think I think about the impact, and I think about what looks good, and I think about what I want to do because I don't have to make anybody else happy. And then yeah, with all these dinosaurs here, I started animating the dinosaurs looking up, and after 5 of them, I think. Just like I'm not gonna animate all these. I'm just gonna start popping them in, and it gives you the idea that everybody's looking and everyone's affected. But yeah, it would have taken me an extra 20 hours if I was gonna animate probably 30 hours to animate all those characters looking up, and I could spend that 30 hours somewhere else. What I'm generally going for is okay, if I can put 6 hours in here, can I get that impact? Oh, can I do it in 4 hours? Can I do it in 3 hours? And trying to lessen the amount of time with still getting the point across.
Yeah, because the point is not to kill yourself on a on a personal project with months and years of making.
And always keeping in mind for myself what is going to keep me going. And if this is starting to burn me out, then I need to be doing it differently. I always need to be thinking about next year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, that I'm never going to take on, or to my very best, especially in studio, I'm not going to take on a project that makes me unhappy, that makes me not want to animate, because then my next project will suffer and my next project will suffer. So as long as I'm taking on projects and positions that keep me happy, that keep me excited and enthusiastic about doing my work, great. Then you know what? If it's a little bit less money or a little bit lower position now, that's okay because I've got longer to do it, and I can keep doing it till my hand doesn't work anymore.
And I think to finish with the interview, we can maybe talk a little bit about your future projects, the one you have in mind.
Mm. Well, it's funny because when I talk about going through here. So this is my current list of my 18 projects. So it's going to be one of these 18 projects, my next short film. But I don't know which one yet. And what I'm doing. So the way that I did it previously is I would start working on several projects, and then whichever one I ended up putting the most time into, that would be the one that turned into the short film. And I'm doing something similar, but I'm also realizing that getting the vision of the project is what's really important to me. So this next one, I have a clear vision of how I want the project to make me feel.
Okay.
And so what I'm doing when I start doing character designs, start doing background designs, if I'm doing something that takes me away from that feeling, then I know that that's the wrong direction. And so I need to get back to that feeling that I'm going for. And it's funny because I don't really have a clear idea of the characters. I have a vague idea of the story, but the feeling that I want is so clear to me now, especially over the last 2 days. I've had these dreams where I've just kind of solidified this feeling. Like I say, again, it's not even visuals. It's just, this is how I want the film to make me feel. And up until now, I've been making the movies I want to see, which is great. But now making the movies that make me feel a certain way, oh, that's even better. That's a level above. I can't really actually describe too much of what it's about, other than it's going to make me feel inspired. It's going to make me feel, and hopefully makes the audience feel inspired, because that's the thing. I'm doing it to make myself feel a certain way, but I want other people to see it. I want to share my feelings, to my view of the world with other people. So it's going to be a story about somebody and maybe a group of people overcoming an obstacle. And that's very, very vague, but the feeling I have is very specific. So about a year from now, probably 9 or 10 months from now, I'll be able to say, here, this is what it was. But right now, it's still very, very early.
And so are you going to show the behind the scenes like you did for this one?
Mhm. That's one thing I really like about TV Paint is the recording that's built into it. So you can record the whole process as you're going. That's terrific because I've tried a couple different screen capture programs, and I haven't had much luck with them. But the TV Paint one is just, you just click record, you just draw for an hour, and then great, you've got your video. So I'll definitely be recording a lot of what I do as I go through it.
Cool. And the last question I ask in every interview, do you have some advice for the people who want to make movies and make animation?
I think it goes back to my the series that I started. Anyone can animate, because I think anybody can. It used to be a lot more difficult to get into because you needed certain equipment, you needed to have an animation disc, you needed to learn from someone who knew how to animate already, and you needed to train with them directly. But now, I mean, anybody can get different computer programs. I mean, people are learning animation in high school, in elementary school, and there's very simple programs that you can get for free. There's more high-end programs you can get, like TV Paint, that you can do much more quality projects. It's phenomenal just how easy the access to animation is for everybody. I would just say just do it. Don't worry about, oh, it's not very good. Oh, I can't draw. Oh, I don't have any ideas. Just do it. Just go make something draw. I work with a guy who I see on the train, Brandon, sometimes, and he's got a new drawing app or an animation app on his phone, and you can only do like 60 frames or something like that. But he was showing me some of the animations he's doing. It's this guy skateboarding, and it looks terrific. It's just stick figure skateboarding, but it's amazing to look at, and he's just doing it on his phone. And so, yeah, I would just say don't be afraid of doing something that you think is bad. I think that just doing animation in itself is inherently good.